The day she fired me, she didn't know I'd already accepted a job at the company that would soon destroy hers. My name is Michelle Lawson, and 3 weeks ago, I was the model employee. At least, that's what my performance reviews always said. I'd been working at Bexley Strategies, a mid-sized marketing consultancy in Sacramento, for just over 7 years. 7 long years filled with late nights, impossible deadlines, and client calls during family dinners. I was the dependable one, the go-to, the fixer. Yet for 3 consecutive years, my annual review went like this. Michelle, you're doing phenomenal work. We just don't have the budget for raises right now. Funny, because every time I opened our quarterly report, there it was in black and white, record-breaking revenue. And every time I walked into the parking garage, I saw new luxury cars that definitely didn't belong to anyone in middle management. The morning it all began, I walked into the office with my usual iced coffee, ready to present final campaign metrics for a $5 million rebranding project we'd just wrapped. The client was ecstatic. Our numbers had doubled their projections, and we even got a shout-out in Adweek. I should have been walking on air. But the tension was thick when I stepped onto the 4th floor. People looked away too fast. Whispers stopped abruptly. I barely sat down when my direct supervisor, Karen Mayfield, popped her head into my cubicle. Michelle, got a second? Her smile was tight, her voice fake sweet in the way managers use when they're about to drop a bomb. I followed her into the corner office I had never once been invited to enter for anything positive. Inside, Karen sat behind her oversized mahogany desk like a queen about to pass judgment. And next to her, the HR manager, Amanda, clipboard in hand, avoiding eye contact. We've been made aware, Karen started, that you've been exploring opportunities outside the company. I blinked. I haven't submitted any resignations, if that's what you mean. Karen lifted a printed email and tapped her French manicured nail against it. You interviewed with Pinnacle and Company last Thursday. You marked your time off as a personal appointment. That was a breach of trust. Pinnacle? Of course, one of our rival firms. I had taken an interview, yes, but only after being passed over for a raise again, despite outperforming every target thrown my way. I don't see how interviewing in my personal time. It's not about the time, Karen cut in. It's about loyalty, and we no longer believe your interests align with Bexley Strategies. Just like that, 7 years evaporated. Amanda handed me a manila envelope. Your separation documents. Your building access is already revoked. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. I stared at Karen. Her expression didn't change. Cold, efficient, almost bored. I've given everything to this company, I said quietly. I built your 3 largest accounts from scratch. You know that. Karen looked past me, her voice suddenly clipped. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. It took every ounce of strength not to cry or scream or throw the envelope back in her face, but I didn't. I stood, adjusted my blazer, and nodded once. Thank you for the opportunity, I said, then turned and walked out. Security hovered awkwardly by my cubicle while I packed up my desk with the framed client thank you notes, my office plant, and the little awards that had apparently meant nothing. Colleagues glanced at me, puzzled and whispering. I offered them a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Once everything was in the box, I walked out. No fanfare, no applause, just the eerie silence of betrayal. But what Karen didn't know? The same morning she fired me, I had received an offer letter from Pinnacle and Company. And in less than 72 hours, I was about to become her worst nightmare. By the time I reached the parking lot, box in arms and dignity barely intact, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Ryan Calder, Vice President of Strategy at Pinnacle and Company. Can you start Monday? Let me know what you need to make that happen. I stared at the screen for a moment, letting the weight of what had just happened crash into me like a wave. Karen thought she'd just eliminated a threat. What she didn't realize was that she'd just handed her biggest competitor the very weapon that would slice through Bexley's future profits. I drove straight home, set the box on my kitchen counter, and poured myself a drink. I wasn't a drinker, but that afternoon, I needed something to burn away the humiliation. I spent the evening reviewing Pinnacle's offer. Not only were they offering me a role, Director of Client Strategy, but they were offering nearly double what I'd been making at Bexley. More than I'd ever dared to ask for. Benefits, stock options, and most importantly, respect. That night, I texted my best friend Layla, who also happened to be Bexley's data analyst. Me. I got fired today. Layla. What? Why? Me. They found out I interviewed with Pinnacle, said I betrayed their trust. Layla. You carried that company. Karen is out of her mind. And then, Layla. Oh, Michelle. You don't know, do you? My stomach turned. Me. Know what? Layla. Karen's been trying to poach Pinnacle's biggest client behind your back. Ever since you made their shortlist, you were a threat. I sat in stunned silence. So that's why she was so quick to fire me. She wanted me gone before I could leverage any of my knowledge, or worse, beat her to the client she was secretly pursuing. The betrayal hit harder than the firing. I had given everything to that place, trusted her even after 3 denied raises. And all the while, she was planning a takedown of her own. But here's the thing about betrayal. It cuts deep, but it also sharpens your edge. Monday morning, I walked into the glass doors of Pinnacle's downtown high-rise, greeted by a receptionist who already knew my name. Welcome, Ms. Lawson. Ryan is waiting for you upstairs. I barely recognized myself in the mirror as I stepped into the elevator. Power suit, confidence, revenge stitched into every step. Ryan greeted me warmly on the 21st floor and gave me a tour. My office had windows, a team of 6, and a view of the Capitol Dome. You're going to lead our transition with the Maxwell Group, he said, tapping a folder. We just landed them. Biggest healthcare account in California. My heart stopped. The Maxwell Group. That was the client Karen had been trying to win. I knew because I'd written their pitch at Bexley months ago. Karen shelved it, saying they weren't the right fit. I had my doubts then. Now I knew she was trying to steal the client herself. They were impressed with your campaign draft, Ryan added. You made quite an impression. I swallowed the rush of adrenaline and forced a smile. Glad to hear it. Oh, Karen, you really had no idea who you were messing with. The next few weeks flew by. I dove into onboarding, met with clients, and built a strategy with Pinnacle's teams. But in the background, I kept tabs on Bexley. Layla kept feeding me intel from the inside. Quietly, carefully. Karen was panicking. The Maxwell Group hadn't returned her calls. Other clients were getting jittery too, hearing that her star strategist had suddenly vanished. Rumors were flying. And worst of all, word was leaking that I was now with Pinnacle. One afternoon, Layla texted me. She asked if you had contact with Maxwell. Said you might have taken something with you. I hadn't. I was professional, even in revenge. I hadn't stolen a single document. But what I had taken? My mind, my relationships, my reputation. Those things were priceless and untouchable. 2 weeks after starting at Pinnacle, I sat in a boardroom with executives from the Maxwell Group, presenting a revamped campaign strategy that would roll out across 30 hospitals statewide. I could feel the energy in the room shifting as I spoke. Eyes widening, heads nodding. This wasn't just a pitch, it was a declaration of war, and they were ready to sign. After the meeting, Ryan pulled me aside. They're finalizing the contract. Your work sealed the deal. That night, I got an email. Subject: official notice. Maxwell Group Agreement. We had them. Karen's golden goose was officially in our nest. I didn't need to call her to let her know. The silence would speak louder than any words. But just to be sure, I sent a quick LinkedIn post. Excited to lead strategic development for the Maxwell Group as part of my new journey at Pinnacle and Company. Simple. Director. Public. The reaction was nuclear. I didn't tag Karen. I didn't mention Bexley. But within hours, Layla texted me. She stormed out of her office, cursed loud enough the intern heard her. Client services is freaking out. I almost felt bad. Almost. A few days later, Layla sent another message. We just lost the Hartford financial account. They followed Maxwell out. I smiled to myself. That one? I'd built from the ground up. When I left, so did their trust. Ryan noticed the shift in mood across the local industry. Whatever you did at Bexley, it's working for us. I didn't do anything, I said truthfully. They did it to themselves. By now, whispers had become headlines. Small marketing publications speculating about the talent shift, the client migration, and how Pinnacle had suddenly become the new leader in Sacramento's agency race. I kept my head down. I focused on results. But people noticed. One afternoon, I got a message from someone unexpected. Derek Fox, Bexley's former CFO. Heard you landed Maxwell. I always said you were the sharpest person in the room. Want to grab coffee? I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I had no interest in gloating. That wasn't the point. But it was nice to know they were watching. At the end of my third week, Ryan called me into his office. Pinnacle wants to restructure the West Coast strategy, he said. They're looking at someone to head the regional expansion, someone who knows how to disrupt. He leaned back in his chair, smiling. We want it to be you. I blinked. Are you serious? Serious enough to double your signing bonus, if you want it. I didn't answer immediately. I didn't have to. I knew what I wanted. That weekend, I flew to LA for leadership onboarding. Karen, meanwhile? Layla texted me Sunday night. Emergency all hands Monday. HR's flying in. I didn't even need the details. I could already see it. The unraveling. What Karen had done to me was petty and short-sighted. But what she did to Bexley, firing the person holding the client roster together, was catastrophic. I'd simply done what she never could. Proved my worth without burning a bridge. I just let the whole thing collapse behind me. That Monday morning, while I walked into a strategy briefing at Pinnacle's LA office, Karen walked into a meeting of her own. One she hadn't called. One she hadn't prepared for. Layla texted me live updates like play-by-play commentary from a disaster movie. HR flew in with someone from the board. They're reviewing your personnel file. Someone asked why you were fired with no documentation. I leaned back in my conference chair, sipped my espresso, and smiled. You see, Karen made a fatal mistake beyond firing me. She left a paper trail. Emails denying raises despite revenue spikes, documented praise in performance reviews, and zero formal reprimands. Firing me for disloyalty wasn't just unethical, it was legally questionable. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Layla. Karen's locked in her office. No one's seen her since noon. I didn't need revenge. I was witnessing it. And then came the real twist. That evening, while I reviewed strategy documents in my hotel room, an unknown number called. I answered. Michelle Lawson? Yes? This is Sandra Patel. I'm a partner at Holloway and Fincher, the firm conducting an internal compliance audit at Bexley Strategies. Would you be available to answer a few questions about your termination and past role? Ah, there it was. The storm. I'm happy to cooperate, I said. We scheduled a call for the next day. I didn't know what Karen had told HR, but clearly someone higher up didn't buy it. And just like that, the story she tried to erase was about to be written in ink. The next day, I gave the auditors everything: timelines, email chains, salary rejection memos, and even my original pitch deck for the Maxwell Group, the same one Karen had claimed to develop when trying to woo them. I didn't embellish. I didn't editorialize. I didn't need to. The truth was damning enough. Sandra thanked me and promised discretion. "This could have legal implications," she said carefully. Layla later confirmed what I suspected. "Her access has been restricted. They're combing through everything." I didn't cheer. I didn't pop champagne. This wasn't about watching someone burn. It was about finally being seen. I had spent years trying to prove my worth to someone who was never going to give me a seat at the table. But here I was, building the table at a new company. And she was about to be shown the door. Later that week, I was back in Sacramento when I got a message from someone unexpected. Amanda, HR. The same HR rep who had sat silently while Karen fired me. "Would you be open to a conversation? The board would like to speak with you directly." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, let them clean up their own mess. But another part, the part that still remembered walking out with a cardboard box while Karen smiled, that part wanted closure. The next morning, I walked into Bexley Strategies, not as an employee, but as a guest. Amanda met me in the lobby, visibly nervous. Her smile was tight, like she was bracing for an earthquake. "The board is in conference room C," she said, gesturing with her clipboard. I nodded, but inside, I was calm. I'd already won. This was just the credits rolling. Inside, I was greeted by 4 board members and one familiar face: Harold Denton, the CEO. A man who had shaken my hand at every holiday party and forgotten my name every January. "Michelle, thank you for coming," he began. "We're reviewing what transpired around your departure. There seem to be inconsistencies." "Inconsistencies," I repeated, my tone cool. "That's a polite word." Harold shifted uncomfortably. "We've already placed Ms. Mayfield on leave pending further investigation," he said. "But we'd like to ask if you'd consider returning to Bexley in a leadership role." I blinked once. "You fired me for taking a job interview. Then you lost your biggest client. Now you want to offer me a promotion?" The silence said everything. "We acknowledge serious missteps were made," Harold said, "and the board would like to make things right." I gave a small smile, the kind you reserve for people who are 5 steps too late. "I appreciate the offer, but I've already found a place where my work is valued before clients walk out the door." One of the board members, an older woman with a sharp bob and sharper eyes, leaned forward. "If there's anything we can do to make amends—" "There is," I interrupted. "Start treating your people like assets instead of tools. Listen before they leave. And never let anyone like Karen Mayfield near a leadership title again." They nodded. They didn't try to argue. There was no argument to be made. I stood, shook their hands politely, and walked out with my head held high. 2 weeks later, Karen was officially terminated. The internal audit exposed years of manipulation, including inflating her own role in securing client accounts that others, like me, had built. Layla texted me the news, adding, "Her departure email was 2 sentences. HR sent it out. No goodbye party." Poetic. By that time, I had already been promoted at Pinnacle. Ryan and the executive team were expanding our West Coast operations, and I was now overseeing the entire strategic accounts department. I had my own budget, my own team, and more autonomy than I'd ever dreamed of. One day, while walking through the office, I paused at a window overlooking the skyline and thought about the girl I used to be. The one who stayed up until 2 a.m., polishing decks for a boss who never saw her. She was gone. In her place stood a woman who didn't wait for recognition, who knew her value, who didn't need revenge because her success was the revenge. I didn't burn that bridge. They did. I just walked away and built something better on higher ground.